Welcome, ghouls, ghosts, and goblins. We are here. Anthony's creeping me out.
Who?
Anthony Bautista.
It's me, guys. It's me.
Oh, would have gotten away with it too.
Yeah.
Oh. Welcome, everybody. This is part of our favorite series. We are just having some fun, really, tonight, talking about board games around that time of year. That is Halloween. This is our third attempt to do this video, everybody. So we didn't even put it on the schedule. We just said we're going to record it when we can. We decided to push it live, obviously, tonight as we are recording it. So if people happen to stop in, great. But Anthony, Ryan, welcome to another fantastic topic here.
Yes.
Now, Anthony, I gotta first go to you. You've been covering this over on your channel, so plug. You've covered a great variety of games over there, so I want to make sure I send people your way as well for that whole series of videos. So I'll make sure you put a link after the fact because you did a great job with that. I wonder, sometimes I was laughing about this, how you're going to catch up next year, because you're going to play a lot more haunted board games now.
Yeah, this is definitely the most videos I've done on a particular topic without any repeats. So even my picks tonight have not appeared in any of the videos over on my channel, and I was pretty impressed by that. Yeah.
Myself too. I've not repeated when I was over on your channel. And Ryan, of course, I had some suspect thoughts of what you might pick.
Sure.
I hope everyone is excited to see what you did pick.
Yeah.
You've got a good collection for this topic.
Spoilers, as you guys know, I'm a big fan of Ghostbusters. Spoilers, pretty much all Ghostbuster board games are terrible. So none of them will be on my list for today. So yeah, that's my double spoilers for today.
That's your double spoiler. All right. Well, when it comes down to it, you do have the luck of getting first pick tonight. Before we get into that, when you think of this time of year, what are the, without necessarily saying the game, but what are the type of games that come to mind around Halloween for you? Because I think Halloween and it means a lot for a lot of people. It doesn't necessarily mean necessarily the same thing. So Anthony in particular, what kind of games do you think of around this time of year?
For me, right off the bat, it's definitely cooperative games. You know, there's this joining forces against, a big bad, a large evil, whether it's a creature or something unknown. And it's just ripe for that kind of atmosphere. You know, you can turn down the lights a little bit. And because you're playing cooperatively, you're going to share most information. You don't need to really keep it a secret. And nobody's going to feel like they're getting outplayed, right? You're going to win or lose together. So I like the co-ops for this time of year for sure.
What about you, Ryan?
Me? Usually, I'll say, you know what, guys? Let's just play a train game. No, I'm kidding. So it's Halloween time. There's usually only one game that I really want to play every October. I don't think it's happening this year, but I have been doing it for the last couple of years. So I just want to go for anything horror themed. I love the horror genre. You know, I'm wearing my classic Universal Studios monster shirt because I love the classic Universal Studio monsters. So yeah. I mean, I just love all the kooky ghosts and goblins. And what the heck is a goblin? Never mind. I like the ghosts, like vampires. I like The Invisible Man. I think that's a really good movie.
Well, I will say this. I kind of agree on the co-op side. It's not always co-op, but I do like that idea that there's some team up sometimes. And I definitely think of haunted houses and stuff, though I don't go crazy with that tonight, but I think of those haunted houses, not on, spoiler alert, because I mentioned this on on a show the other day, and go see Anthony's channel. I mentioned a particular favorite of mine that involves haunted houses or mysteries in houses.
Yes, sir.
So with that, Anthony is not first. It's actually Ryan who's first.
It's me.
So Ryan, what do you got up first?
All right,
on
so
this series?
I'm happy to talk about it. So way back when, before I got into the board gaming hobby for reals, there was this old game I played called Zombies, and it's not the game I'm talking about today because that game is awful. But Zombies! ! Zombies, right? Because I always loved the zombie genre. This game is probably my favorite of the zombie genre. Now you could go. It says Flick 'em Up, Dead of Winter. That's right. Flick 'em Up, Dead of Winter. 2 board games put together to become one board game that's better than both of them. This is a cooperative dexterity game where you're carrying out different missions to hit up some zombies. And there's like 10 different scenarios. There's cooperative ones and then competitive ones. I would just stick with the cooperative ones. And you're basically just flicking yourself around to collect some goods and bring it back to your camper before the zombies come and get you. And you could get to shoot them and stuff, or hit them in the face with a baseball bat. And by hitting them with the face, to flick the baseball bat or flick the bullet or flick for movement. You have to flick for everything pretty much. But what I love about this game is that thing right there that says dead inside. That is how the zombies move in the game. It's a zombie tower. So when you move in the game, depending on what action you did, you either are quiet or you make a lot of noise. And depending on how much noise you made is how many zombies are going to come. So what happens is you take these zombies, you put them on top of the tower, you remove the tower, and then they come sprawling out. And there's an awesome video that I did myself of it. It's not that awesome, but just show how cool this is. It's going to be very lackluster. I'm talking it up so much. Just go ahead.
Here we go. You could take
Go to the clip.
Look.
Go to the clip.
We'll show everybody. Let's go to the clip.
So, right? Come on. Sorry, that like I said, it'd be very lackluster. It's a lot more exciting in person. Like these zombies are falling. Look.
So wait, where they land? That's it. That's where they stay for the game.
That's where they stay. So what happens is the next turn, another player goes, and when you're done and moving, the closest zombie that's standing up gets to go towards you. So you put that zombie on top of the tower, and then all the zombies that are flat down, you stand them up, so they'll be ready for the next round. But basically, if they fly over and hit you, you lose damage, which is interesting and really cool. I really like this game a lot. It's silly, and the rule book is awful. So just know, just like Flick 'em Up itself, the rule book is awful. Just know when you're going in, you're gonna have to fudge some rules to really get the gameplay going. Don't feel bad about like, oh, what do I do in this situation? I don't know. Just do what seems right, you know. And if you go in it that way, it's honestly like a blast. I've brought this game up before in a previous talk about like the unsung heroes of board games. I feel like this one had its moment and fizzled away really quickly. You can get it in the bargain bins. And it's I highly recommend it. Let's Flick 'em Up, Dead of Winter.
I feel like this would get to the table more than Dead of Winter, because Dead of Winter, which is it can be a very enjoyable game, but it's one of those games where you need to have a right group. There's a bunch of games like this. I mean, games I love, Battlestar Galactica is the same way. I feel like you need the right group for a lot of these, and that one sounds like, oh yeah, we can really quick get this on the table and fairly easily do this. So that's one thing I like about that. It's funny you mentioned the Unsung Heroes one, because one of my unsung heroes or my underrated games is also not on this list. Surprisingly, I could tell people I won't be talking about Hit Z Road for like once.
That was on my bingo card.
No, it's not here. It is not here.
Yeah. But I do recommend you guys try it out. I like I said, I do like it better than Flick 'em Up and Dead of Winter separately. It's just like it's such a solid experience. So really give it a shot. And it's also great solo. I'm not gonna lie. It is fun to play with these toys.
Awesome. Well, I have Anthony up next. Anthony always brings something I haven't seen. Often very good for the. Often I have to say, Anthony's also probably the one who gets me by the most games that are good for my family at the same time and getting me to spend money. So it's dangerous when Anthony comes on the channel, I like to say. So what will I be buying in all likelihood at some point in the next 6 weeks?
Well, okay, so I'm not sure about the availability of this game. This is a little game from designer Chris Handy called Boo, which is in a series of these Pack-O games. They're all the size of a pack of gum. They usually come in a set, so I'm actually not sure if you can buy these separately or not. I never actually looked it up. This is the second set. He had I believe two Kickstarters, and I have the second one, not the first one. But basically, it comes with, I think, 8 games that are all this size, and they all have 3-letter titles, which is pretty cool as well. Packs a good amount of game in a very small little package. So in this particular one, it's very abstract. Okay, you're going to be placing down one of your cards and then looking at where your colored ghost is facing, and then flipping over a ghost of the opposite color. 2-player only game. The idea is you want at the end of the game to have more of your ghost showing than your opponent, and that's basically the entire thing. The picture on the right here is the initial setup, the little cemetery gates there where the ghosts are evenly distributed. And then you're just going to hand of these cards that have 3 spaces on them, place them out attached to the structure, and you can kind of put them any way you want as long as they're lined up on those sort of separate lines there in the middle. And it's just like a line of sight thing. You're going to look at your ghost that you just played down. Where is it facing? If it runs into a tombstone, nothing happens. If it runs into a ghost of your color, nothing happens. But if you can get it to face a ghost of the opposite color from behind, you'll flip that card. So it's got to be from the side or behind. It can't be looking straight onto the other ghost. So there's definitely a lot of strategy involved in the placement here. And, as the structure kind of builds, obviously it gets a little more laid out. And, you can wind up placing a card that might be able to flip over 2 or maybe even 3 other cards. And that's basically the game. It's a nice, cool back and forth. It's pretty thinky for a little game. And again, I mean, it's totally abstract. This theme could be anything. It could be arrows and not ghosts. But I do like the artwork. It's cartoony, very like, sketchbook kind of doodle stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I like it. Nice little game.
I was going to say, small, portable, that's always a win. Especially if I guess this isn't the season of traveling as much as like a Christmas or a Thanksgiving, but I always enjoy that. You did also have actually another photo, but I want to make sure we share too, just to give people an idea of how the game can kind of evolve. It looks like into taking up a decent amount of space, but again, as you know, these all fit into a pack of gum style. So
right.
I can't imagine that actual much space on a table in reality.
No, it's really not. The only downfall I would say to having the game in this particular package. So, I mean, every game has cards that are this shape, right? Which is fine. But the rule books can be pretty rough because they're accordion folded so that they also fit in this box, and the print is obviously pretty small because you can't have an extensive book in that little pack. But I do like these games. There's a whole bunch. Like I said, there's at least 2 packs and maybe even a couple of other standalones that I'm not aware of. So check them out. That's from Chris Handy.
And you said so the ghost has to like look at another ghost from behind. It's actually that's very Super Mario inspired, right?
Exactly.
That's exactly how that works.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it.
So I always love those small little games. The game that I picked, and the reason that I picked it for my first choice tonight, it actually was a game I discovered initially through Creators Corner here on the channel because I had Eric on the channel, and it's a fun little game called Monstrosity. And I like this for a few reasons. One, I am awful at drawing. Absolutely awful. I can't do it. But this is a game you don't have to be good at drawing, and you can have a blast in the process. It's very accessible. Ultimately, you essentially are sketch artists in this game. You are working to look at this as the witness. You're looking at this monster. You've got a very little time to look at it, essentially 20 seconds. And then for then a period of time, the artists who are essentially interviewing you are asking you questions, and you've got to describe this thing to them, which is a funny experience. This is definitely going to fall, I would argue, from in that kind of party group kind of setting. And then when it comes down to it, they can't say anything to you necessarily. You're just describing it to them. Then after that time is up, essentially the witnesses doesn't get to look at the card again. You just have to hope that the vision is there. And there's another voting period at the end of it where essentially people get to pick who got it closest. So it's really cool in the sense that the point system is that the player who gets the most votes from the artists themselves are going to get each getting the points. And then if a witness votes for the artist who got the most points, that witness also gets points for being a credible witness. So the point system can kind of add up over time. But what's neat about this game is everyone gets to take 2 turns as the witness. So you're going to get equal time as the witness, kind of looking at these monsters. All the monsters are really weird and unique and different. But what I love about this game, and I don't think I'm accurately showing here because you can't see it up close, is all of these monsters, all of these illustrations. It's this variety of artists. It's so cool to see so many different people showcasing their art. And what I like also is, again, the fact that it's very accessible. I can bust this out. I also feel like you could take this game and just play it in your own different way too. You could say, okay, we're going to see who draws this best. You could take this and say, we're going to give you 30 seconds and I'm going to have it in front of me. I mean, you could edge it, and if you don't want to go completely by the rules with a younger audience, you can do it. And it's designed in that way. But it's a lot of fun. And for me, it's silly fun, but it is a game I can bust out with anyone. And the fact that I can participate in it and potentially win is really neat to me. But a fun little game. Everyone gets to be the witness. Everyone gets to kind of be there and hear the descriptions. And then they get these 2 minutes to try and draw what they heard. You could say, oh, it has 2 horns and a really big nose and it's very round. And you're describing this, but everyone's going to draw something completely different. But it's monsters, and it has an expansion, a Kickstarter actually coming out now that's adding some other stuff to it, and I'm excited to see what that does. But I just like it for what it is as a base game. It works great. It has one expansion that adds some cute monsters. But it's a fun game, and they do have a little divider, just so people know. They have a divider section. So hypothetically, after you've used a monster, you pop the monster back into this section of a box, put the thing on top, and you're not going to repeat the same monster. So you could go through all the monsters. You may not go through all of them with the same group. I don't know that you would remember all of them, but it is a nice little thing that I think it's nice that it's acknowledged that, okay, you might remember some of these. So we're going to have you not repeat them. We're going to go through the entire pile. But
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a cute little game. I like it. I like to bust it out. Family, friends. I think it can work for a lot of different type of groups, and it's a good kind of filler too.
Was that your
I think
drawing?
it works very well as a filler.
Was that your drawing that we saw? Did you do that one?
That one was my son's, actually, that I had tried to describe this house.
I will hold back my comments.
Yes. Yes, that was my son. I tried to describe. My son is actually a much better artist than that. He was.
It looked really close, actually.
If you look at my son's work, I wish I had it. He hand draw anything from sight. But when I described this poorly, I said it looks like a house. It's got eyeballs. I clearly didn't know how many eyeballs at the top. Mine would probably look worse, and that's fine. But yes, you can judge. You can judge me. I'll play you guys sometime, and you can judge my drawing because I'm not.
I do want to play it.
Yeah.
I just want to judge you. I don't care what we play.
Yeah,
it's 3 players or more. Just so you know, 3 players or more, because you do need at least 2 people competing. I'd argue this game is best at 4+. I think 5 or more, you're going to have a really good time. 3, we kind of fudge the rules a little bit, I have to admit, just to make sure everyone has like maybe even another go around or things like that. But I'd say get 4+ in this game. You're going to have a blast.
Nice.
Cool.
Now, Ryan, you're up next, and I think you very much like this game.
I do. I have a whole section of my collection dedicated just to this single game. So let's talk Halloween horror. And one of the things I do like binging. Power watching. I don't binging sounds, I like power watching Netflix shows. And if I want like a nice like spooky horror thing, like Stranger Things is great for doing that. And I like that kind of vibe of like episodic things go from one episode to the other, story driven. And in terms of board games, there's no board game I feel like that does it better than Arkham Horror, the card game. Now, Arkham Horror, the card game, first of all, is not for everyone. It is pretty unfair. It's cooperative. It's pretty rules dense. There's a lot of ambiguity with a lot of the cards, and a lot of the cards over time just get nerfed because they're either too powerful or stuff. In the game, you are playing as investigators, trying to uncover some sort of evil mystery thing going on, right? And like in this first one, you're in a spooky house and you're in an office, but there's no door. How are you gonna get out? Okay, and then oh my gosh, there's some demon ghoul priest, but you decided, you know what? I don't like my house anymore. I'm gonna burn it down to the ground, because you could do that, and that's what's cool about it. So it's episodic driven. It's every scenario is completely different. Some, like you're in that spooky house. Others you're trying to find all these people all across this map, trying to bring them all together to a square so you could see what's going on. But at the same time, there's these demons that are flying and getting you. There's one where you're in a train and you're just going from left to right. I love train games, and they did a great job of doing that.
I was waiting for a train reference.
Yeah, and what's great is this particular game. First of all, is extremely episodic because each one has different scenario flavor text in there, and a lot of like paragraphs as to what's going on, and then there's different resolutions based on what you did and what actually happened in the game, and your character levels up from mission to mission, and eventually you get to the end and you'll die, because that's just how it goes, unless you're very good. And even then, it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna win. But it is a very memorable experience. It is one that I miss a lot. I used to play this a lot, 2 players pre-pandemic, and I really want to get back to it. It is slightly tiny bit worse in my opinion than Marvel Champions, for what I get out of it. But if you want something super involved, and there's people that will slap me for saying that, I guess, because they're just Arkham Horror crazy. If you want to jump into the Cthulhu realms and all that sort of jazz, there's a brand new Arkham Horror Revised edition that just came out. It's a great place to start to see if you like it or not, because the scenarios are campaign driven and they get very expensive. So it's not for everyone for playing that way. But if you like it, like, hey, you know what? This month, this new scenario came out. Let me go pick it up. And you could do one-off scenarios too. Like there's a really cool one about like a murder mystery at a hotel. That one's a really cool one. But yeah, that's Arkham Horror, the card game. It is fantastic. In terms of horror and that feel, it's perfect. Like it really has that paranoia vibe going on.
Is it replayable?
Yes.
Like that's I think the question I've heard a lot of people ask. That's part, and I thought the answer was yes, but that I've heard many people say, if I get this and I do the whole scenario, is it actually going to be?
Well, you don't have to get it. It's right over here. This square is just all Arkham Horror stuff. Literally everything that's been released so far. That's available in America because shipping stuff, right?
But obviously, it is a lot of cards. It's expensive, but the fact is, you go through one, you could certainly go back and do it again.
Yeah,
and you're not going to have the same exact result.
Right, you won't get the same exact result, and the different cycles they have return boxes, which they're probably going to do this for Marvel Champions, but they have return boxes where it's additional cards for the cycles they can add in and shuffle them around, so you don't know what the outcome is. It's not like, oh, I know behind this door there's going to be this bad guy that I need to be prepared for, But the great thing is too, in terms of replayability, it is really there because the characters are so unique. The investigators that you get to choose, they have different limitations as to what they can do. They have different strengths as to what they can do, and they all have different individual weaknesses. And how they interplay in that deck of cards, it's just it's it's so good. It's so good.
I don't know anybody, Anthony. I've always heard really good things about this one. It's definitely one I'm going to play with Ryan at some point and go through and do some stuff with. I'm with you with Marvel Champ. I own Marvel Champs is enough of my investment, but there's one I want to definitely play. It's on my.
It is worth it though. It is definitely worth it. Worth playing at least once. I know people that have hated it beyond passion, and I know people that love it, and that's like their jam.
That's every game, isn't it?
No, but this one's very polarizing. I feel like there's a very strong community for it, and there's also a very strong, loud anti-fan base.
Well, we're definitely about the positive idea of at least trying something new here, right? So, something that I hope people would try.
Yeah.
I jokingly say it, but it's true. A lot of times, Anthony comes with these games I have not tried, and I'm sure once again that he's now got a second one in a row, but I have not tried, for the record. So, just gonna put that out there. I'm 99.9% sure. We'll double check about that 0.01 now.
Well, my second game also involves ghosts. And I'm normally in a list like this, I would try to pick a different sort of theme or monster. But again, as Chris mentioned, this is my 5th video about monsters for Halloween. And so I had a little bit of repeat here. But this game is just called Ghost. Actually, it's called Ghost with multiple O's there in the middle. This is a little card game from Yellow, who I tend to always sort of like their stuff. And it's got one of those cool magnet lid boxes, which I appreciate. It folds out, and this is like your cemetery, which is just a discard area. It's totally unnecessary, right? But the artwork is cool, and why not use it because it's there? But essentially, this is a sort of ladder climbing game similar to an Uno, where you're trying to get rid of all of your cards. The way that it's a little bit different, though, is that you're going to be handed a hand of 4 cards that's going to stay face down, and that represents the mansion, your mansion. You're also going to get a hand of cards that you're going to start to play. So eventually you're going to get to the second round, and that's when you're going to have a larger deck that you're going through that's going to benefit you. The reason I say that is because you want to try to get groups of 2, 3, 4 ghosts of the same suit, because they will allow you to get rid of your cards faster, right? You can play 4 cards instead of 1. And basically, like most of the other games that are sort of this mechanic, you have different suits and then different numbers, values that are going to trump other cards, be better than them, clear them, with a few exceptions. As you can see in this bottom picture, there's other colored cards that are do some different stuff. So the number 1 value card you would think is the weakest, but it's the opposite. That's Scout, the fearless little scout who is not scared of anything. So you can play that card on any previously played card, no matter what the number is. That's a nice one to have. And then there's a couple of those, one of the red ones can only be defeated by, say, having like 4 of a kind as opposed to 1. So they're going to be tougher to clear, because this is a game where if you can go again, you're going to keep going, right? So you can kind of get those cascades and those combinations and get rid of a whole bunch of cards, ideally in sort of like 1 turn. And a couple other small effects here. There's like a reverse thing, kind of like similar to Uno. The one I like a lot is that middle card with an X, because you don't know what that value is until you play it with another card. It basically takes the value of that card. She's called Miss Copy for that reason. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You're going to play this until there's just 2 options. You can play like a round as just the 1 game, but then you can also collect these scoring tokens and kind of see who has the most after several rounds. But essentially, if you play 1 off, the game has 1 loser and multiple winners, because you just don't want to be the person left with ghosts in your hand, that your mansion remains haunted and you lose. So going out first is great. I mean, you win, but you still have a chance to not lose, even if you're not the first person to finish.
It's very cockroach poker-esque in that regard.
Yes, you are correct. That is the game that I forgot how to reference, and thank you for doing that, because
You're welcome.
That's a again, I sometimes these little quick games are I love the name of it, just being Ghost. But simple to play. You mentioned the box. I always laugh about those boxes because they're nice, and I never take advantage. Like when they do something like that, I'm like I take it out and play it, and then like halfway through the game, I realized, oh, I could have just used that box. Isn't that what's intended for? That's why they did that nice thing.
It's pretty approachable too. I mean, I gotta say, I played this game with a couple of novice gamers, and a few years ago, actually, first time I introduced it to anybody was when I was doing a board game club after school with like middle school age kids, and this one took off really really well. It was played every week for a long time, and this
Mm.
was not even necessarily during like Halloween season, but I found that those kids really do like card games. They're familiar with Uno, and if it's anything that you can compare to Uno a little bit, it's just easy to use that as a jumping off point to
Mhm.
teach something that's slightly adjacent or a little bit next level, but not crazy.
Yeah. Well, my next game is not, as I've mentioned, Hit Z Road,
Oh.
but it does technically have zombies and many other things in it. I actually mentioned this if anyone tunes in and watches the latest episode of On the Table, where I had Ryan and Teresa, who were two of the original people who helped me really get this channel going about a year ago or so, around this time actually, with some like roll and writes and fun things over Zoom. I mentioned, I believe I mentioned this game. I definitely mentioned it. I want to give a shout out because someone was kind enough to have me on their podcast. I'll drop a link. I would actually mention on this podcast. And I got to talk about this now because that's why I'm here. I'm so excited to talk about Maximum Apocalypse. Now, I think I've mentioned this before, maybe in passing. It's been more of a side comment. This is a great game. I have the big box. Not everyone necessarily has to have the big box. So you're seeing photos of myself. You're seeing photos of my larger box. The photo itself that you see on the left hand side is the cover from the original. Now, the game lays out what's really cool about this, the card that's actually leaning against the box. It's actually a card that tells me how the game's going to be set up, the type of cards in there, the locations, which all have these different things. As an example, on the right hand side, you can see scavenge, free scavenge when you reveal, which allows you to scavenge at that location. But you can also take a scavenge action as one of these 4 actions that you're able to take, or one of 4 actions that you're going to take on a turn. Though on a turn, I should tell you, as you're moving around this map, you're always taking 4 actions, period, and there's 5 ones to choose from. You have to take 4 actions. There's no choice. One of those actions is drawing a card. You can play a card. So there's a lot of very clear actions you're going to take. But as you look, these locations are going to have different things, good things, bad things. This one also has that red dot, which means when you scavenge, you're pulling from the red deck. The decks based on that card that I'm talking about earlier are going to tell you the type of thing, the type of stuff that's in those decks to some extent. So there's all the games are set up differently. But what's cool about this, and what I think is particularly cool, and I got to bring this over so you can see, is there's a lot here. You can kind of see Alien. You can see Cthulhu is in here. There's robots. There's aliens. There's vampires. So there's a lot of these different monsters. It starts with zombies. The first tutorial you can see in front of you, and it goes through this. This is how you play, and it's really it's a tutorial, so it's teaching you. But you're playing until you complete the objective. The objective might be collecting a certain amount of things. It can vary. You might have to find a scientist. It's going to be really different from game to game because, quite frankly, there's all these different stories. I have not played through all of them. What's great about this is once it ends, you still have to get to the van. And on the end of that first photo on the left, you can that's a van. So you have to get to the van. There's actually, I think in one mission, you actually have to get it started. You have to have enough gas. So that's one thing. You got to bring enough gas to actually have the van move. This is a fun game. And I enjoy it very much because of the character variety. You talked about character variety before, Ryan. This one, just as an example, this is the priest. And my favorite is that card is a staff. He's swinging essentially a stick. I'm pretty sure it's got a cross at the top of it, smacking some zombies or monsters. That's not a zombie in this case, but hitting somebody. Well, there's a lot of different people: veteran and his dog, adventurer, fireman, the gunslinger. And they all, much like a pandemic or something else, have a certain capability, right? But that's not necessarily unique, but their deck of cards are all very thematic. If you look at the cards in these, even this priest deck, you've got the staff, you've got blessing. There's a lot of really fun cards, and they do damage. So when you're playing these cards, it might be do 5 damage. The turn order, just so everyone knows too, is it starts by spawning of monsters. So you do have to spawn a monster and then draw a card from your deck. You roll a dice, you put monsters on spots that have a certain thing, and that's how monsters are continuing to go across the board. There are some big bad monsters in there. I just got to tell you that. I got to add, there is a deck as part of this, one of the storylines that you can go through, and I don't think it shows in this particular one, but you can kind of see it. Dino. So it goes into some pretty clear, but the cool ones, I think, in particular, when you talk about Halloween, the zombies, the vampires, there's Rapture as one.
Is that Borat there behind Alien?
That is not Borat. No, that's Robot, actually. If it's Borat, that would be
no. Spoilers.
Spoilers. Sorry, guys. That's the disadvantage of live, right, everybody? But yeah, it is fun. I really enjoy it. It's a game that you can play, continue to play, and go for the story. And I guarantee you could go back and start it all again and have fun, because everything's going to happen differently. Plus, there's so many different characters. The actual figures that you saw don't come for everybody. I purchased those. If you got the base like a regular game, it'd be little standees. I actually played with the I got the figures because I wanted the figures, but it's fun. The soldier and his dog is neat too, because you've got the dog who can kind of roam, and the soldier, so you can move around a little bit differently with that. So I thought they got really creative with this. It had another one that's coming out too that I'm 90% now. I'm 100% sure I backed it. But great little game. Not little in my case anymore. I've got a big box, but that is Maximum Apocalypse. Fantastic game.
I feel like we should play that together. I feel like that's the game that would be good. And I feel like that's definitely my sort of jam. With Maximum Apocalypse too, you were mentioning so is it just scenarios? Like this is just the single dinosaur scenario. This is the vampire one. It's not like you can combine different decks and put them together.
They're not really combined because you're going through a story. So if you look at this, you can see they're all kind of separated. They may have combinations that I'm unaware of at this time. It is possible. I don't want to speak to that but they have very much decks behind them. So when you see the tutorial card, what you're not seeing is there's a very particular deck full of monsters.
Yeah.
Now, if I check online, there is definitely a possibility of some fan-made stuff for this. I don't know how popular this really ever got. I don't know that everyone even knows about it, but I think it deserves to be known about, and that's why I kind of share it. And I said earlier today, I was taking photos of this, and I said, I don't play this enough. And it's one of the byproducts of maybe buying too many games. God forbid. But it's like, I haven't played this enough. And so I definitely want to bust this out more. But I love this game. Big fan of it. And I definitely highly recommend it if you have a chance to try it out. Ton of fun.
Have you done it solo? Because I feel like that's where I've seen it a bunch.
I have not done it solo, but it does have a solo mode. Yes. Yeah. It has a solo mode in it. So it can be done solo. And it adds some other day and night stuff with later expansions. Like they add other things where at night it's more dangerous things are so like the experience continued to evolve. I'm more speaking to the base because a lot of people aren't going to jump right in and buy everything. I want to speak more to that base experience that anyone can have, which wouldn't necessarily be all the characters you saw, but you'd get quite a few with just a base purchase.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll try it out.
I already ruined your day, so
It's all right. I'll pivot. Let's just get to it. This is my favorite game that I love playing on Halloween time. That is Fury of Dracula. Go ahead. There's my cape. I keep a cape in my copy of Fury of Dracula. I keep a pair of fake fangs in my copy of Fury of Dracula. I keep fake blood because when I want to defeat a person, I just have the blood going on. I keep a fake stake in my copy of Fury of Dracula in case the hunters win. I let the hunter that defeated me stab me through the heart because it's fun. Listen, Fury of Dracula. It's not a great game. Gameplay wise, it's not. It's an experience, and I mentioned before, way back when I played that game, Zombies. Fury of Dracula 2nd Edition was the very first game that got me into the hobby in 2005. So a very special, biased place in my dead heart for Fury of Dracula. I love Fury of Dracula. I'm a big Bela Lugosi Dracula fan, and this game, oh man, it just screams, drips with theme. Like, okay, so let's talk about this game in case you don't know the Fury of Dracula. So it's more like the hide and go seek of Dracula. So Dracula is going around Europe, just walking along and just dropping off traps. Meanwhile, there are 4 hunters, okay? And they are all looking for Dracula. They're like, oh, well, maybe he's over here in Klausenberg. No, maybe I'll go check Budapest. And then during the day, you could do different actions. And at night, you can't move and you got like secret actions. There's combat. It's silly. Dracula's more he's stronger at night because obviously he's Dracula, right? And what goes on is basically the hunters need to find Dracula and kill him before Dracula makes that little dial in the back reach 13. When he does, game over, Dracula wins. And it is a lot of fun if you are playing in character. It is a lot of fun if you are playing it as a dungeon master with people because especially with new players, it can be very polarizing experience for new players if the Dracula is not taken into consideration that this is supposed to be a fun thing where, hey, maybe I'll, let me, like how, because the whole thing about Dracula is a very cocky monster, right? And you got to kind of play that. You got to really play that. And you got to make it so you are kind of toying around like, hey, I have, as Dracula, I just been following this hunter. And he just isn't going in the right direction until he realizes, oh, wait a minute. He's right behind me, isn't he? And then, boom, here I am, blah, right? And it's just, it leads to so many stories. There's so many stories I have of Fury of Dracula where it's just like one guy just giving up. One guy like, oh, you know what? That's it. We're done. We can't find him. And another time where literally on a lucky guess, they figured out where I was. And so I just was like, you know what? I'm going to go this way. Hail Mary, hope to God, well, I guess Satan, that I'm going to Castle Dracula. Go that way, because if I get to Castle Dracula, I could heal myself, right? Because I got like my fridge there. So I do that, and then the hunters play a card where it changes turn order. And so the player who I figured would see me last ends up seeing me first. And literally everyone gets to my spot. And all 4 hunters just beat the crap out of me. It was like that scene in Office Space when they beat up the printer. I was the printer in this. And you know what? It was great. I had a great time being that printer. I got to make sure everyone's night was memorable. It was great. I had wine. It was fun. You guys should play Fury of Dracula if you haven't played it yet. I would love to play Fury of Dracula with you guys. I'm sure Anthony included it in one of his 5 videos.
I have not played it, but yes, it was mentioned by Eric, my friend Eric. He likes this one a lot too.
It sounds like there's a whole category of games, and Anthony, you may agree with me on this because I think I described Betrayal at the House on the Hill in a similar way as an experience game.
Yeah.
It's not particularly clean in terms of the mechanisms of the game. There's issues. It's not one of the games I'm talking about tonight. I've mentioned it on other videos this month, and I love the game, but it has issues. But I will play it the moment someone says, "Do you want?" Yes. You don't have to finish the sentence. And you talked about the getting in character. And I love that because that's how I feel about Betrayal. It's no, like, let's give a character a backstory. So it's that same kind of thing. There is a whole collection of games that you just have to be ready for the experience, and it will not work for everyone.
Yeah,
it just won't.
But the biggest challenge, again, honestly, I don't want to sound cocky, but the biggest challenge is on the Dracula player. You really need to cater to the other hunters. You really need to, it's a dungeon master role, right? You don't
Yeah.
want to just ruin someone's night and just make them do horrible things just because you want to win. You want to make sure I win by making sure everyone else is having a good time. If everyone else I'm playing with says, you know what, I had a blast playing Fury of Dracula with you, Ryan, and they want to play it again, that's all I need to hear. That's all I need to hear. I don't care if I lost. I don't care if, I don't care what happened. As long as they want to play it again, Fury of Dracula is a special game. And that is why I love this game around Halloween time, because it's got that whole spooky vibe. It's cheesy. It's really dumb, but it's really fun. And yeah, with the
I
right
love it.
people, you got to play it.
No, I love it.
Is there player elimination in this game? Like, can a
No.
hunter die? No.
No, when they die, they just go to the hospital.
Gotcha.
That's it.
So you're knocked out, but you're not dead.
Yeah, you get like extra fanged. I'm like, blah, I fanged you, and then blah, I fanged you again. You
So
go
it's
to the
not like
nearest
they
hospital,
turn
I get
into a
3 points.
vampire that's helping
No,
Dracula at that point.
no. There's no sort
Ooh.
of flipping. No, that wouldn't be. I don't think that would work in this game. It is very much. Yeah, it's so thematic though.
I will say this before we go into the next game, Anthony. I do think there's a category here of games that, just for a discussion sometime, of the games that are about the experience, not the game.
Mhm.
Because the more I'm talking about this, between Mysterium, between Betrayal, Mysterium can be a weird experience too. It's not just this time of year though. There's other games across different seasons where it's experience that makes you want and love it. And I don't need 100 scenarios for Betrayal, but I have 100. So, and I would love to play them all. I have the legacy version for it. God, I don't know if there would be a Dracula legacy, but that would be a whole new thing.
That'd be so dope. Yeah, I would easily.
See, there you
Fury
go.
Dracula Legacy. Yes.
Well, there's an idea. Anthony,
Yes, sir.
I know, have one that, in my opinion, people should play.
Oh boy.
This one
Uh-oh.
I actually agree with, in the sense of playing it before. The other ones I agreed with. I'm not saying I didn't agree, but I've actually played it, so I can speak. Well, not played it, but I don't know. You just go. I don't want to spoil it.
I'm very excited to talk about this game. And similar to Ryan's game, if you die in this game, you go to the hospital. So there's that.
Yeah.
But this is a co-op game. This is the monster game Horrified. Now, specifically, I'm talking today about the new version, the American Monsters. But the other version is fantastic as well. It's got all the classic Universal monsters, 6 different monsters you can play against. So go ahead and play that one. There's no way that I'm going to stop getting any new versions of this game that come out. I'll say that right off the bat. Love the co-op, love the artwork in these games. This one specifically has more of a urban legend sort of thing to it, right? So, for example, the big bads here are Bigfoot, classic. You've got the Chupacabra, and then my personal favorite, the Jersey Devil.
Mm-hmm.
You also have the Ozark Howler, who I'd never heard of before, the Banshee of the Badlands, who I'd never heard of before, and then the Mothman.
Yeah.
So 6 different monsters here, and essentially you're going to play as a team of these paranormal investigator types. You're trying to defeat these monsters. You can play against as many monsters as you want to increase the difficulty level, but the core mechanics of the game are basically the same. You're going to be going around to these locations on the map, picking up different items to collect to do different things in order to defeat the monsters. So every monster's got a different advance action you can take to try to get them closer to being defeated, which really increases the replayability of this game as well. And I just got to say, I've played 5 out of the 6 in this new one. I have not played with Bigfoot yet. I love them all. I really do, but they're just so different. I was impressed that they were able to come up with different ways to use the stuff in the game in this second version of it. And really, most notably, again, I'd like to, I think, at someday, and maybe Chris, you would want to join me on this. I would love to rank all the monsters in these games, because now you've got 12 of them all together. The
I
Jersey
love the idea
Devil.
of that. I love the idea of that. I have to play them all, obviously, to do it. And so that alone is a good reason to agree to that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I was wondering, you said they play differently, and that was my biggest concern. I wasn't caring about a reskin. I don't think reskins are awful. Not every reskin. And there's people who will say, well, like, I love Munchkins, which has been reskinned 20 million times, right? But this feels different than a Munchkin reskin or something like that, because what you're describing is the way you're defeating these monsters and everything is all different.
It is.
So 12 unique monsters now. And I don't believe they mix and mash based on.
No, I don't think you would be able to do that because the locations are all
Yeah,
different.
specific
And
Yeah.
the cards would be all different too.
But still.
But yeah, they're not just, I'll say the characters that you play are pretty much carbon copies of the other game in terms of their special abilities. I think I haven't put them side by side completely, but for the most part. But the monsters, yeah, are really impressive, and they're thematic too, which is really cool. I mean, the Jersey Devil one, the first time I played that and did the setup, I was like, wow, this is different. You totally take out from that monster deck, you take out all the citizen cards, all the people cards, and you have them all face up on the table with their standees on them. And that's part of the setup for Jersey Devil. As one of the actions to advance against him is you can go to the city hall space and choose to bring out one of these citizens, these villagers. Now, you still do everything on the card the way you would if it came out of the deck normally. But the big difference here is that for this particular scenario, when you rescue a person, when you bring them to their safe location, you get one of those good perk cards as usual. But in the Jersey Devil one, you also reveal a clue, because the way to beat the Jersey Devil is you're trying to identify which one of the villagers is actually the Jersey Devil in disguise.
Oh, interesting.
And so there's this mini deduction game that goes on. It's not super complicated, but you'll flip over a clue and it'll have something on it like glasses, and you look at all the people and eliminate suspects who don't have glasses. And once you do that 3 times, you're going to have the identity of the person, and that's how you start. And then you get a whole bunch of items to defeat him. But I mean, that's just one example. I would love to do a deep dive on this game and again talk about how all the monsters are different and how they play. But man, I am loving this game. I can't wait to play it again. The only monster I haven't played against is Bigfoot.
Oh, wow, you saved a good one for last. I was
Yeah.
going to say, when I saw this game, the thing I wanted, and I'm not asking for IPs of 20 million games, but the thing I wanted was I really want them to make somewhat under the vein of this game, a supernatural version of something like this, where it's the two main characters from one of my favorite shows, Supernatural, hunting monsters. And I'm like, this is maybe a way to like if they ever did a reskin and did the supernatural version of Horrified, I'm in. Make it deluxe and give me like 20 I'm in. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
But this is, I think, just a great game, and it's a very welcoming game. I describe it as a game that is approachable.
I recommend this to families all the time.
Yeah.
But it's not just families. That's what I love about it. It's approachable, but I could bust this out with you guys and play it. We're going to have a great time. And we could, I could just as easily say, Ryan, want to play Brass Birmingham. But I guarantee you'd play this one too. And that's not always the case with games. So
yeah,
that's why I think this has just such a strength. It's a very great game. And as someone who tries to put games in the library, this is one of those games I'm like, you know what? We need to get a copy of Horrified and this newer version in the local library, because these are games that I want out to the families. So
yeah, and the theme is great. The theme is so great.
I'm excited to try this one. So count me in anytime.
Really cool.
Yeah, I really want to do it.
I feel like the minis got a little bit upgraded in this second version. They're a little more detailed, and just even the graphic design, like little things like the character player boards are like they look like little notebooks, and like the monster boards are like files of these monsters, because you're like these supernatural investigators type thing. Little details like that. Really like this one, so highly recommend.
Well, we are coming up on an hour in this great conversation. So before we end, I want to make sure I share my third and final one.
Mhm.
I bought this game the wrong way.
Hmm.
There's just a funny story about this game. I bought the first version of it, realized they came out with a second edition slash expand. I just did everything backwards. I ultimately ended up with everything. But the game itself is really a very fun game from a variety of ways. One, simple to play, simple to teach, easy to get to the table. It doesn't take up a ton of space. And overall, you get to be the monsters in this one, and that is campy creatures. And I love campy creatures so much for a few reasons. You're the monster, and you want to capture the mortals. So you're going to have cards in your hand. And this is similar to other games out there. Silver and a few other things that I enjoy use a similar mechanic as you're trying to, to maybe to win a hand of some sort. But in this particular case, there's a variety of mortals. Some actually are worth negative points up front, but they've got symbols on them that are going to help you win the location because you've got locations that are on the table that give you certain abilities, capabilities, or maybe get you a card, whether it might be. So you're going through and you're trying to win these cards. Assistants come out throughout the game that you actually see on the board here. And you want to win assistants because assistants, much like the dessert in Sushi Go, stay with you throughout. And they're going to continue to build up points for you. But you've got these awesome characters, these awesome monsters that you're choosing to play. The Beast, the Invisible Man. It's such a cool collection of monsters. And what's great is there's multiple ways to score in a round because not only is it from the cards you take, which are either worth negative or positive based on what you've collected or what the number on them is, there's also the idea that if you kept the Beast in your hand the entire time, the number 7 card generally, there, I believe maybe an alternative of it with the expansion. I forget off the top of my head. You're going to get 3 points at the end of round 2. So you're going through trying to get the locations. You go until all the location cards are gone. I will note between each location in the stack that you're going to have, you have more assistants that then come into the pile. Now, not pictured here is also a board. And the board I can describe a little bit, but it's got just a small little piece on it that has your monster symbol. And if there's ever a tie, what's at the top of it? That's what wins. Then it drops to the bottom. So you're no longer going to win ties. And so it's another neat factor in the game that they're mitigating tie scenarios by having this little kind of tracker that's happening throughout the game. This game is really simple. It's really fun. The locations add some variety. Expansions add certainly some variety as well. I recommend you just pick up the second edition with the expansion. It's really not that much more than just than paying for. If you see a first edition, don't buy it. Don't do what I did. Buy the second edition because it comes with some tweaks. But I like this game quite a bit. Again, fairly simple. I could teach this to anyone in probably 5 minutes, and we can be playing it. And it works very well, as people are probably used to me saying, if you've watched this channel before, as a dinner game, because you can very easily play this over dinner. Definitely a few rounds. I compare it. Silver's actually behind me on my shelf. Compare it to Silver in the sense of the cards with the different numbers that do different things. But one thing you have to note is some of those cards that are pictured will have symbols on them. And I'll bring it up real quick. I don't know if I even have it, but there's a, for example, certain symbols on these. You'll see the dots. If it has the 1 dot, essentially what happens is the fact that you're going to get to go first. And that action is going to move. So you may have one that says you get to go first. It looks like Ryan disconnected, by the way. This is literally, I'm laughing now because this, with all the things that have happened. Hello, are you there, Ryan? No, he isn't. Well, we're going to proceed ahead anyways, because it's just a joke now. It's just a joke that we've seen disconnections galore. There you are. Are you there, sir?
There was a giant.
Well, everybody,
just
if you're still live with me, this was the cursed episode of Halloween. I feel like everyone has either frozen or disappeared.
Well, I'm here.
So I'm going to give them a chance to come back. I'm going to say this while I have the chance. I want to thank Ryan, and I think Ryan's back. There he is.
I'm back.
We had the 13th. The luck of not the 13th. The luck that we've had with this episode.
Literally, the power went out for a minute, for like a second there.
Well, we might have lost Anthony to the same thing, everybody.
Yeah.
But look, it took a lot to get this out live, but we had a lot of things happen in our lives. We're human beings. That was Campy Creatures. Ryan, I don't know if you've played Campy Creatures before.
I want to. I saw on those cards they had Dwight Fry, who played Renfield, and they had like a Ghostbustery looking card. So
there's some good stuff. Yeah. I just got noticed that Anthony lost internet, everybody. So there we go. We made it through though, guys. We did it. We powered through, pun intended. And I want to thank everybody. I know Anthony can't be here. I just really want to point you, Board Game Dads. He does great stuff. He really covers some unique themes I don't see anyone else in terms of board game content creators covering. So please go check him out. And obviously Ryan is here probably 50% of the time for videos. So you can certainly catch Ryan here. Hopefully a few more things in the future too. You might even see Ryan alone at some point. You know,
weird
if you want to see that. But Ryan, before we go, any other thing you want to mention? I know I do want to mention, just because it's appropriate, it's Halloween, that your group was out at New York Comic Con, and it looked like a great time. So if you haven't seen his Ghostbusters group, they're awesome. So
we ended up raising money for charity. We ended up getting $2,100 for for the Trinity Place shelter, which will be given to them at the beginning of we give them every year. So
well, that's fantastic. So I want to make sure I want to make sure I did shout that out, because it's really cool. I see I was brought up behind you. You have one of I see a very clear prop behind you. So I couldn't
that's like a cheap trap from Target, by the way.
Okay. So it's not one of the good ones.
It's not one of the good ones, but it's not too bad, to be honest. To be really honest, I'm not a stickler. All right. Yeah. So.
Oh, look, we may have Anthony back to end it. Anthony, you're back. Perfect timing. We're closing out. Was there anything you wanted to share in the most appropriate ending to an episode that took 3 times to actually happen, which is, we've never had a problem on the channel getting an episode out. And then here we go. This one.
Cursed
episode. Anything though? Anything that you wanted to get out before we call it?
I'll just go check out all the stuff on my channel. Like I said, we got plenty of Halloween videos there, including one with Chris for Haunted Houses, a dad cast about Halloween, and one about the classic monsters, and one about games to play on Halloween night.
Like it. Love it. That other one, if you're watching live on What to Play on Halloween, may be helpful if you want to find something to play on Halloween. So there you go. Thank them both for being here. Stay tuned. We got more good stuff on the way. And I do want to note, please, if you get a chance, go back, maybe check out the last 2 episodes. I'll try to drop a link to you as well of On the Table. It's a newer series here on the channel. A lot of fun, super casual conversation. There's some pop culture and other stuff mixed in there, but just talking about some games we played in the last month, and the guests are going to vary throughout the year going into the new year. We're going to keep doing that. It's been a lot of fun. The reviews have been, feedback has been good coming back, so going to keep doing it. So if you potentially want to join too, or you've got someone you think would be great for it, feel free to let me know too, because like I said, I just want people to have fun and talk about board games, so that's what we're going to do on it. With that said, gentlemen, I'm not going to push luck anymore. Thank you both for being here tonight, and before we all lose internet or something demonic happens at this point, this train is coming to a stop. Thank you for coming aboard the Tabletop Express tonight, and you all have a great evening. Talk to you soon, folks.